prepare for good time.
All right, so I'm back, and another night, another upgrade. So hopefully the overlay is working for you. I'm really happy with it. I spent quite a while on that little Spin Kick Comics sticker, and yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. So I'm going to finish inking this Conan and get on with it here. Thanks for joining me. Again, my name is Liam Jones. I am a fine artist turned comic artist, growing a YouTube channel, trying to make a living as an artist. And that's where I'm at. So I hope you like my content. I've been working hard at trying to serve an audience a little bit more, rather than just posting like stuff for me. The goal originally with this channel was to just get used to using a mic and speaking publicly and what have you. And I've gotten better, and now I'm starting to actually do courses. For instance, I got a Subscribestar account. Subscribestar is a website. It's like Patreon. And I'm going to put some content over there. At the moment, as I'm recording this in May of 2022, I don't have any content on it yet. But that is going to change very soon, especially with this new setup and kind of high-end camera. I have the gear and the know-how, a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to be posting a lot of things over on there, making gifts like stickers, cards, giveaways, and what have you. My comic book, basically like, exclusive content. To encourage people to get over there, because it really helps. I see a lot of artists using things like Patreon and Subscribestar to help them to be their own boss, really. I mean, that's what we all want to do, right? So my goal here is to make the kind of stuff that people love, that you want to keep coming back for, especially, if you're an artist and you want to learn art fundamentals. I am your guy, because I love drawing. I love art fundamentals, color theory, perspective, figure drawing, all that stuff. It's great. So that's what I'm going to be doing over there. All that to say, jump on over there and check out Subscribestar. It's a pretty good platform. Can you see what I'm doing here? Is my cap in the way? Hopefully not. So this is Neal Adams's Conan. It doesn't look like this drawing was ever used in a comic book. I think he just drew this for fun, but it's such a great little drawing. And I think it's a good reference to understand one of the greats in comic book history. I often wonder, who are the people following my channel? And I go into the demographics and I find that a lot of the people who are watching my stuff are in Canada, and they're kind of in my area. So I'm wondering if most of my viewers who stick through the content are people that I know personally. That definitely won't be the case for very long, but if you are following my stuff and you know me in person, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That is so cool. And for those who don't know me, and south of the border and what have you, welcome. Welcome, welcome. I think it was about 3 years ago, maybe 3 years? Somewhere around there, before the pandemic anyway, when I picked up this book on perspective from a guy named Scott Robertson. And it was a pretty expensive book. It's not cheap. It's basically a school textbook on perspective, what they would call basic perspective. But to me, there was nothing basic about it. It was ridiculous how much I never knew about perspective. And when I started going from that book, I took it seriously, and I would look at it and think about all these different ways of solving problems in drawing that I'd been having for years and never knew the solutions to. And I got right into it because I'm kind of obsessive that way. I might be autistic, who knows, but I love it. I love learning technical stuff. I get into it big time. So perspective was one of those things, and it opened up all these doors for me as an illustrator, as a comic book artist, as a designer. And now I think the next phase in kind of figuring all that out is to teach it. So perspective basics that aren't so basic is what I'm going to be doing a lot here on this channel and on my Subscribe Star. I'm going to make some courses, see if we can make a go of it as a teacher. I know it's definitely helping out with making comic books and what have you. Let's see here. The thing about comic book artists is even when you get a simple sketch like this, it's all figured out. It's all there's so much information. And even though it looks like everything is kind of, well, not everything, even though it looks like it's all loosey-goosey, there's just incredible detail inside of his drawing. I'm going from a reference on my phone here, just in case you're wondering. So I have Kolinsky brush that I was using last night on this thing here. Let's change my grip. I see a lot of artists using this grip as opposed to this grip. This one here requires pretty much all wrist as opposed to finger movement, which can add a bit of a quiver, a bit of a shake, like you're over caffeinated, which I am usually. Yeah, I don't know if caffeine is the inker's enemy or friend. It seems to me that it's the inker's enemy because it does add a bit of a shake to your hand. And this grip counteracts that. So I tried out one of these coffee alternatives made of mushrooms, different kinds of mushrooms. Like they're non-psychotropic mushrooms, of course, because I'm not into that kind of thing. I know some people are, but not me. I'm just looking for something that replaces coffee, that doesn't give you the negative side effects of caffeine, and something to improve mental, what is it? You know, just being able to think quickly, to come up with words like I can't right now. So they're called nootropics, like Alpha Brain and what have you. And I'm looking forward to getting that in the mail. Check it out. There's a bunch of people doing it now. It's a whole trend. Nootropic mushroom coffee. I love it. We're in such a cool time right now. There's so much stuff out there that's available that was never available before. I hope we don't ruin it. You know, I hope we don't come to like an AI death of everything, or we don't get struck by an asteroid, because things are really awesome right now. So much cool technology. Web 3. Yeah, speaking of Web 3, oh my gosh, man. This virtual reality thing. I don't know, have you tried it? If you're into virtual reality, put something in the comments if you know what I'm talking about here. I picked up a Quest 2 a couple of days ago, and it's wild. It is absolutely wild. It's serving a purpose for me. I'm building out a virtual comic store in Spatial, on the Spatial platform, and that's been coming along really cool. I'm working with a couple of people who have other kind of larger platforms in the metaverse, stores basically. So I'm going to be part of a mall with my comic store. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, again, just like reach out to me in the comments, and I'll let you in before the thing's done, so you can come check it out. Because my comic store is going to be a really cool place to hang out. I have it kind of built out slightly, some 3D assets, a whole bunch of wallpapers and stuff, but there'll be NFTs in there. There's going to be swag, and of course comic books. So that's a lot of fun. I think virtual reality is great for entertainment and everything, but to be honest, I'm not really that much of a gamer anymore like I used to be as a kid. Now it's a creative tool. So I got this thing called Gravity Sketch, where you can draw. It's a free app, which is awesome. Free is always good, very affordable. And yeah, so Gravity Sketch, I've been watching some videos on that. And basically it's just a 3D drawing program. Some designers use it professionally, apparently. And I've seen some amazing stuff. So I got that, and I'm figuring that out. Yet another learning curve. Bring on the nootropics, please. My brain is hurting from all this learning that I've been doing lately. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I beg to differ. I'm learning all kinds of stuff these days. I learn lots of stuff off of kids. Like if you're a youth and watching this channel, I want to be your friend, because you kids, you know things that us old guys don't. And I like it. It's good. Conan is definitely one of my all-time favorite characters. The writer of the original Conan books, which are very old, by the way, really old. Conan has been around a long time before Arnold Schwarzenegger came on the scene. The author was a young guy, and had some problems, man. He liked to work out, which was cool, but I didn't know that he was suicidal, and he eventually died. He committed suicide. So it's kind of sad that Conan is the brainchild of someone who had those kinds of problems, because Conan's just a great character. He's awesome. Oh man, I love this brush. So yesterday when I was drawing, I was using this bigger one, and today I'm using a slightly smaller one. I don't know if you can see those. I do prefer the smaller tip. Much easier. What was I saying? Conan. One thing I've been noticing a lot of lately is that creating and drawing and whatever, writing is a really big deal in this world. And I think knowing how to write, tell a story in words, plan things out in your brain, it's a really, I think it's an undervalued skill set. I think people are specializing, which is good. You need to specialize. But I think that writing is pretty much, it's so important, I think, for an artist. So I'm going to be speaking about that quite a bit, just to encourage people to write and to read fiction, especially. Like, we're all into self-help books these days. There's all this stuff out there for motivation and what have you. But when you read fiction, or you write fiction as an artist, you're just kind of adding to your skill set. I think it's such a benefit for artists to know how to craft a story and to write through content, right, with your drawing. So you don't just draw well, but you have some real substance to what you're doing. And I think it's a natural evolution as an artist, where first you're concerned with technical ability and chops, and rightly so. But then as things go on, you start getting more into the bigger picture. In the same way that when you get into a job, you just want to, at first, just do the job. You want to get in there and not mess up. And then as you get some experience in your career and profession, and I can speak to this as a 47-year-old dude, you get the lay of the land and you see what's happening in the bigger picture. And it's the same thing in art. The writing aspect and content and what you're actually drawing matters more than how you're doing it or how it looks. It's like you can have a great drawing, but if the subject matter is not true to you or doesn't speak to what you want to do with your own work, I think that's, that can be improved upon. It's not the end of the world. It's not a horrible thing. It's not like it's necessary, But for me, what I've found is that I want to be a part of the creative process in terms of content, and I think that artists can benefit from that. I think not just artists, everybody. I'm going to speak in terms of art. I've been reading a pretty cool novel lately by a guy named Ian Banks, and it's a sci-fi novel about the future with 2 or 3 main protagonists. It's called, the name is escaping me. It's a really weird title, like Second Skin or Surface Detail. It's called Surface Detail. That's it. It's pretty good. It's a good book. It's not really my cup of tea in terms of content, because it's definitely like female protagonist oriented and dealing with that a lot. And a lot of the dialogue and substance of the book is the main character talking with AIs, which is really interesting. Conceptually it's interesting, right? But for me, I kind of like the human-on-human interaction. So it eventually started to wear on me as I was reading through the book. Nevertheless, Ian Banks had a really cool view of the future. It wasn't dystopian entirely, but it also wasn't utopian. I think the word they're using for it is protopia, which is why I started reading the book initially, because I like to see visions of the future that don't paint this super bleak idea that you see over and over and over and over again in our media, in our news, and in our movies and TV shows, where everything is just so bleak. It's like, lighten up, guys. Chances are we're not going to die of a nuclear war, and this isn't going to all of a sudden just turn into awfulness. Well, maybe it will. As the Bible says in the book of Revelations, things don't look too good for everybody, but the book the Bible is a book of hope. And as bad as things can get, there's still this flip side to things that I don't think is explored a lot enough, in my opinion. If you, it's like when you're driving, there's this saying you hear so much, you go where you look, right? If you keep on painting this bleak picture of the future, I think you're much more likely to repeat it. So anyway, Ian Banks paints this portrait of the future where there's spaceships everywhere and they're really accessible. They're no big deal, and we can travel around, and AIs are fully sentient, and ships have their own personalities and avatars and fully fleshed out characters. So this character, this main protagonist, Ledeja is her name. She's going around on this quest to get revenge, and she's speaking with AI computers and getting into adventures with them. Lots of interesting sci-fi ideas are being explored in this book. So my comic is has a lot of future stuff in it and deals with AI and computers and what have you, and it also is not dystopian. I want to focus on human connections more than anything else. So even though it has this very futuristic take on it, it's not like Star Trek, where it's this Marxist view of the future where there's no more use for finances and what have you. But it's also not a dystopian thing. It's just kind of a realistic scanning ahead in the future to see if AI goes the way it's going and we don't come into the apocalypse. Just my daughter's texting me. We're gonna go for dim sum. Yeah, if the world doesn't blow up and we continue on our path, it's going to be a really interesting future. I mean, as cool as things are right now with things like VR and amazing computers and these cars that can drive themselves and robots, it's going to be really, really funky, really interesting as time goes on to see what's next. Like people going and living on Mars, colonizing it, yes please. That sounds amazing. Spaceships going into orbit. You can go on a spaceship into space and experience zero G. Yes, please. I'm on that. Bring that on. People think it's crazy. You know, what, you want to go into space and all that radiation and the danger? It's like, yeah, man. Yeah, I want to do that. I want to go into orbit. I want to go to the moon. Absolutely. I want a mech suit. That's what I want. I want a mech suit that gives you super strength and gives you the ability to fly. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Speaking of flying, I've seen stuff. So this drone technology they have with these drones that are like basically 4 propellers on them to keep them all balanced, and they have all these AIs on them now that can stabilize them so you can fly this really complicated machine without a whole bunch of expertise. Anyway, all that to say, and you probably know exactly what I'm talking about because everyone's seen them. You can get them for really cheap at Best Buy. There's people using these things now as personal transports. I saw a guy standing on top of a drone using it like a skateboard, just flying down the street. I didn't see it in person. I saw it on YouTube. But it happened, and it's not fake, and it's totally plausible. It was like a hoverboard, but it was a drone. And this dude is just chilling on his hoverboard, flying down the street about like 3 or 4 meters off the ground. Just flying. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. The times we are living in. I remember it wasn't that long ago when video calls were incredibly sci-fi. They were things that we dreamed about. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we could talk with each other in a video message? It's like, yeah, I'm 47 years old. I'm really dating myself with this one here. But things like Star Trek and Total Recall, they were using that video message thing and just casting that vision, like one day this is going to be how we all talk and deal with each other. Sure enough, man, I remember Y2K, the changing from 1999 to 2000. That was such a big deal. Everything was, you know, post 2000, we're going to have flying cars, jetpacks. Phone calls are going to cost $2 million. all kinds of things. You know, the movies that at the time that were casting this vision to the future, all these funny ideas. If you can catch that reference of the really expensive phone call, you just gained my respect. I think it was actually from a Twilight Zone episode back in the day. A guy reaches into his pocket. The phone says, "To continue your call, please deposit $1 million." He's like, "Oh man," and it's like a hobo, right? Of course, there were no cell phones. They couldn't see that far ahead. So you were still using payphones. A $1 million phone call. And he just reaches into his pocket, pulls it out. Oh, man. And continues his call. We have crazy inflation, but it's not that crazy. I think I'm using too much hatching. All right. Let's see. Kind of want to finish up this drawing. I don't want to go too crazy with the looseness. I think in this drawing he's standing in front of a waterfall or something. Not sure. Hard to say. God, the detail is amazing. He put a strap on the axe, like a wrist strap. So when you're swinging your axe, it won't fly off. It's a concern that barbarians had at the time, I'm sure. Let's go darken up some of these areas here. So I have Kolinsky brush that I was using last night on this thing here. I have to get my drawing board back out. Drawing like this is really hard on the posture. Neck is craning over and I get really sore after a while. I have to get my setup back. Hey, what do you think of the overlay, the video overlay? Is it distracting or do you like it? I want to make everything look as cool and fun as possible and to reflect the vibe of the channel. So it doesn't take you long to figure out who I am, what I'm all about. That you drop in and it's like you watch for 2 minutes and you're like, oh yeah, this dude's into comic books, sci-fi. He's the kind of guy I want to watch. That's my goal, you know. I was talking with a friend of mine the other day about how a lot of the kids to these days are into anime, and it's like people from my age bracket generally don't like anime and they're very critical of it, and I can see why. I mean, there's a lot of pervy stuff out there. You know, people think of anime, the first thing they think is like, oh yeah, you're gonna see some crazy sexual stuff, right? And it's like, no, that's a stereotype that I'm sure there's a lot of truth to it, absolutely, but I'm not into any of that. The thing about anime is that it's not new. It's been around a long time. And when I was in grade school, there were a couple of anime shows on TV that I got into big time. And when I saw Jim Lee come on the scene in the late 80s, he brought a little bit of an anime flavor. I could tell from like the way he was drawing his characters. They were a lot more dynamic. They weren't as static looking. They looked like they were bred for action, you know? Anyway, it had a kind of an anime flavor to it that's hard to really put my finger on, but I saw it right away and I was like, yeah, this guy. And sure enough, it caught on like crazy. And now kids are just nuts for anime. It's like all over the place. It's interesting. To the point that North American comics are kind of blasé to the kids. They're not into it as much as they are, you know, Japanese artists and Chinese artists. The world is a lot smaller now. So I'm not going to fight that. I'm going to go with it because I loved anime as a kid, and I still do. So I've been researching, right? It's super fun. There's a bunch of YouTubers that draw anime that I'm watching these days. White Manga, he's a black guy. He draws really good stuff. Ergo Josh. There's a bunch of them out there and then there's, of course, there's Japanese and Chinese artists whose names I will not try to butcher at this time. I'm getting there. But it's all still pretty new to me, but there's so much amazing art out there from the anime world that I'm getting into now. I think art fundamentals lend themselves to anything and everything. If you want to be a really good anime artist, gotta have solid art fundamentals. It can only help you. It translates to any art form. Any art form at all. Dry brush. Scratchy dry brush. Let's see if I can smudge it. Not much. Alright. I can't right now. So they're called nootropics, like Alpha Brain and what have you. And I'm looking forward to getting that in the mail to check it out. There's a bunch of people doing it now. It's a whole trend. Nootropic mushroom coffee. I love it. We're in such a cool time right now. There's so much stuff out there that's available that was never available before. I hope we don't ruin it. You know, I hope we don't come to like an AI death of it. As much as I love drawing Conan, my mind is going back to designing mech and getting my comic book finished up. If you've been following this channel, I don't know if you've been following me on Instagram at all, but I've been posting a lot over there. And sometimes I'll take my Instagram videos and post them in the shorts section here on YouTube. So you can still get a sense of what I'm doing over there. But I'm really enjoying Instagram for what it is. TikTok a little bit as well. I'm starting to get over on TikTok as well. Those vertical format videos, quick 15-second videos. I'm having a good time with that. Really liking the format. So if you want to check me out on Instagram, just jump over there. It's Liam Jones Artist on Instagram. But when I'm over on Instagram, I'll say, hey, go check out my YouTube. Cross-pollination. Whatever platform you prefer, I'm there, man. I'm on it. I'm gonna start out a presence on this new YouTube competitor called Odyssey. Odyssey.com. They're looking pretty good. Growing like stink. still nowhere near the viewership and variety that YouTube has. Nowhere near, but they're looking good. I picked up a Quest 2 a couple of days ago, and it's wild. It is absolutely wild. It's serving a purpose for me. I'm building out a virtual comic store in Spatial, on the Spatial platform, and that's been coming along really cool. I'm working with a couple of, man, these times we live in are crazy with the COVID thing, people getting sick. I thought I had COVID the other day. Woke up not feeling good. I ended up being okay. My friend, on the other hand, got it big time. So I'm feeling for him right now. He's crashed out on the couch with a fever and a cough and all that stuff. Well, let's see how this looks. All right, Conan. It's a rough sketch, but I definitely am happy with my new pens. My new brushes, my new setup. Spin Kick Comics, bro. Anyway, okay, I'm going to compile this video and post it up on the YouTubes. Thanks for joining me, and I'm going to be posting a lot more stuff on YouTube now that I have this overlay finished. This was a big project. As much as I'm drawing a Conan, it's really more so about the overlay for me. This was just to test it out. So thanks for joining me. We'll talk to you again soon. Ciao.